Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today's episode is going to be a very special one. I know I've been teasing this one for a little while now, but finally building the turbo kit for the E36. I got everything ready to go ahead and start this build, but today's episode is going to be a brief overview of everything that went into the turbo kit and all the modifications that I'm going to need to make this fit in here and actually work properly. So stay tuned. So these are actually the eBay GT3582s. They cost me roughly about $135 a piece. I know the price has gone up on them, but they're still $140, $160 depending on where you get them on eBay, and generally free shipping. It is a budget turbo build. We're going to see how much power we can actually make out of it. Not going for high boost numbers here because I do not want to shred the rear end on this car just yet. So we're just going to keep it simple. Feeding those are going to be our eBay up and forward turbo headers. So these ones have 1 3/4 primaries into a 3-inch collector, and that's actually going to be almost perfect to mate into the inlet for the turbo housing here. So what I ended up going with are these ones that actually have a short stubby collector on them. There's a couple different types of the eBay turbo headers out there, and for the E36 it's not going to be able to go with the full size headers. They actually end right about here, and as you can see I would have no room to actually get my dump pipe in here. I could flush mount them, but then I would have nowhere for the wastegate, and I'd actually have to have the wastegates welded on to the cast body of the exhaust housing, and I don't want to do that because I don't know anybody that can weld that well, and I know definitely I can't weld that well. So I did need to make sure that they were far enough recessed back that I can weld a dump pipe off of there. So these ones actually came out perfect, and I believe I paid somewhere in the neighborhood about 145 bucks for the set, and they don't look too bad. I am a little concerned with some of the weld jobs I've seen on these. Now, I mean, these are most definitely better than any weld I've ever done before, so I'm not going to go ahead and knock them on that. My only issue is that they don't fully weld in to the flange here. They only actually do a stitch weld on both sides, on the top and bottom, on every single runner. They do fully weld them, however, on the inside here. I would prefer to see it on both sides. I'm not sure if this is going to cause an issue or not. Maybe if they do, I can just take them down to an exhaust shop to have them re-welded. We'll see what happens with that. I don't have the highest hopes that they're not going to crack, but we'll see what happens. And what is nice is they actually shipped them with these studs rather than the bolts, so I can actually Loctite these in and not have to worry about these breaking off in the heads, and then just put the nuts on when I'm ready to mount them. They did come with the gaskets as well. I know these aren't the best gaskets in the world, but it's better than not having anything at all. If they leak, we'll go ahead and replace them with some steel gaskets. We'll see how they work though. For the wastegates, I ended up going with these knockoff tile 44mm wastegates from eBay. So far, there's mixed results on how these perform. I know there is some modifications that I'm going to have to go ahead and do to them. There are a few videos out there where they talk about some machining burrs left on the plunger on the inside that need to be knocked off, that they can hang open or hang closed. And they do go through very thoroughly on how to clean these up to make them operate really, really efficiently. So essentially, they're not bad. Just out of the box, they're not great, and they can be made better. So you just have to take them apart, be willing to put the work into it. But for 55 bucks each, that's not a bad price, especially since I have to run 2 of these on twins. Running a $200 wastegate and then having to buy 2 of those is just not very efficient for this budget build, and this whole build is supposed to be a budget build, so keep that in mind. All right, so let's talk oil. I went ahead and picked up the ICT billet oil plate adapter that actually feed twin turbos. So this will actually mount in the location for the oil cooler adapter. No. So this will actually mount to the stock location on the oil pan for the oil cooling adapter, and this will allow me to feed 2-4 lines into the oil feed lines for the turbo. Every kit I see out there is going to give you I believe, 2 40-inch lines, And to run twins off of the stock location that this ICT billet adapter is going to go to, you're not going to have enough room to run it to the passenger side with a 40-inch. You're going to need at least a 60-inch line. So instead of buying two separate kits and then having to use half of each one of them, I'm just going to go ahead and make it myself. So I ordered about 16 feet of dash 4 braided line for the oil feeds, along with the oil feed fittings, as you see, both for the adapter plate as well as for the line. So I will just cut these up, make them myself, cut them to fit. Now for the oil return line, we do have the dash 10 braided line, and I got about 10 feet of that, which should be enough to take both turbos back to the oil pan location. And I got all 4 fittings as well, so this is not going to cost very much. I believe I have about $50 into all the lines and fittings together. Now, mounting it to the pan, I went ahead and ordered these dash 10 to bulkhead connectors that you just drill the hole in the oil pan, feed this through, and you actually have a rubber washer on each side here that will seal the hole, and then you just cap it off with a nut. So that covers most of the hard parts for the turbo kit itself. I will have a breakdown list of everything that went into it once I get done with the build and we actually do the first fire up. I'll go ahead and do a video on what it all costs. I do have a spreadsheet with all of the parts, all the prices, and links to where I got them from. And I will go over all of that once we finish doing this build and we get the first fire up, and I will post a video on that one, or we'll just post it to the Facebook page depending on how little or much content's in that video. Other than that, we do have a few other parts that are necessary to make this work properly, and those are going to be these guys right here. So we cannot go into boost without being able to read the boost. So this is a 3-bar map sensor. Now, I don't plan on actually running anywhere near 3-bar, but for the price, it didn't really matter. I'll be upgrading the OS on the ECM to a 3-bar, and I will probably do a video on how that's done once I go ahead and put this on. But I have heard some negatives about these, and the only thing negative I can find about running these 3-bar map sensors particularly is some people say that these plastic ones are no good at running 3-bar. At that kind of pressure, these ones are junk. I believe it's because they think that they will actually physically fail. Not that they won't read properly, but they will actually physically fail at that much boost. So I'm not planning on running anywhere near 3-bar. We're looking at maybe 10 pounds of boost on the high end with this build so far. If I run into any issues with this, an upgrade's not a big deal. This one will get me through, a few years of running this car the way it is, and without any problems. So this one's actually only about 35 bucks. I believe I got it from EFI Live, if I remember correctly. In the build sheet, I'll go ahead and make sure I list it all on there, but it's actually a very cheap one. It's a plug and play. It will meet up with the current harness I have on there, the 411 ECM harness I'm currently running. So it's just plug and play. I don't have to splice any wires, and it'll just plug in and work with the flash of the ECU. So this is the IAT sensor. I believe this is a fast IAT sensor, and I believe it was only about 25 bucks with harness, so not a bad price. And this allows you to keep an IAT sensor with deleting the MAF, and I don't have to delete the MAF, and I don't believe I'll be running enough boost that I can't continue running off the MAF, but I plan on going speed density anyways for simplicity reasons. So deleting the MAF is just going to be the easiest way to go. Plus with the twin turbos, it's going to be actually a twin inlet as well. There's no good place to mount the MAF that it would actually be able to read both sides. And I'll show you guys that here in a moment. So this is just an adapter that I made for it, so I can actually fit it in the side of the intake. I do have a shaved truck intake that it's going to be going into. And this is actually a Dorman, I can't remember the exact model number, maybe I'll throw it down in the description, but it's a Dorman freeze plug, and then I just drilled the center of it out and welded a bung on there for the thread pattern, and then this will actually just get put into the EGR location that's currently on the intake. Machined up this little bracket here that will actually retain the plug into that location to make sure that it never gets pushed out under boost. The RVT should seal it in there just fine, but this bracket will actually go into the stock location for the EGR plug and use that stock bolt location to hold that down. And would you look at that, I almost forgot one of the most important parts of this build. So this is going to be the intercooler I'm running. For the intercooler, we went with this JDM eBay intercooler here. 2 in, 2 out, 2.5 inch in on both of them. The one thing that was really nice about this intercooler, and I didn't notice it until I started doing my mock-up, the 2 angled sections for the inlets or outlets, depending on which way you're running it, help me get past the bumper mounts, because I can only go up so far with these that if I had it flipped the other way, I'd actually have to drop it down that it would not clear the bottom of the bumper line. So I didn't know that till just yesterday, but it was actually a happy accident that they're designed this way. So it'll be fun getting it in there and routing the charge piping around that, but you know, that's all part of that build. And then I ended up getting a universal 2.5 inch kit that has just about every single size pipe, as well as couplers and band clamps. And I've actually already done an initial mock-up with it, and I have more than enough pieces. And for like, I think it was like 80 bucks for this. Not a bad deal. So the only thing I'm actually still needing for this build is actually the blow-off valve, but I have not determined how I want to run that, so I haven't purchased one yet. So not sure how much room I'll have once this is all said and done, but I may just get one for each side of this inlet, so to run 2, or I may run them on the intercooler themselves. We'll have to see how the room is going to work once everything's put back together. So more to come shortly on this one. So you guys stay tuned and keep an eye on it for more updates. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Keep in touch with us on our Facebook page as well as Instagram. It's 815 LSX Swaps on both. And stay tuned.